Hey horror fans, Bored now, back with you. On this video I'm going to be giving some non-spoiler thoughts on the brand new Scream movie, Scream 5, Scream 2022, whatever you want to call it. It was released today in the UK and I went to see it this evening. I've been back not too long ago now, so my thoughts are pretty fresh. And just to say, before I get into it, I will do a proper full-on spoiler discussion at some point on the channel. So there will definitely be that, because there's lots to talk about one way or the other. And fingers crossed Rachel hopefully will be fit again for us to be able to do that in the future, because, you know, who knows, she might feel differently from me. But I think you guys are obviously used to that sort of full spoiler type chat between the two of us. So fingers crossed Rachel can be around at a later date for us to talk about Scream 5, Scream 2022. So I'll keep this non-spoiler, as I said. I'll hint at a few things. Obviously, some of the things that are known is the basic plot. It's obviously from the Ready or Not people, a film I enjoyed a fair bit a few years ago. And obviously there's certain things that they do to like recapture the feel of the original Scream movie. There's the opening scene, and again, I don't think this is that much of a spoiler. I don't have to say much about what actually plays out and happens at the end of that scene, but just that scene with Tara, which has been heavily flagged up in the opening credits, is then, you know, it's meant to be mimicking a lot of what was happening with the Drew Barrymore character, Casey, at the start of the original Scream. And there's certain tie-ins that they've done and certain sort of links. And, I mean, just talking about it overall, you've obviously got a bunch of new characters. You've got 4 returning characters. You've got the original 3, of course. And then you've got Judy Hicks, who returns from Scream 4, and she's now got a son, Wes Craven. Well, sorry, slip of the tongue. Well, Wes Hicks, but Wes deliberately. And there's a nod into Wes Craven. And there's obviously other, like, the sort of main girl, the final girl type character in this is called Sam Carpenter. So, again, very deliberate. And I was disappointed. That's my summary. I was disappointed. It had its moments. There were moments I enjoyed. There was some clever gags. I think overall the humour felt too force-fed, too in your face, and just a little too pleased with itself, like it thought. So I think in the end it sort of felt it was more clever than it actually was. But overall, I think the worst thing about the film is that for a lot of it, I was just kind of bored. I just found it kind of bland and not exactly generic, but sort of going through the motions a lot of times. You know, it definitely didn't have the same sense of pacing and the purpose of the original Scream, or even like Scream 2. I mean, Scream 4, actually that's not a badly paced sort of film, but it just seemed to have a lot of scenes that did drag on a bit too much, that were a bit too sort of wordy. It definitely has its moments. I mean, some of the horror type scenes are quite well done. It's a very violent Scream film, which I don't have a problem with. You know, I think that maybe added something. I think, although it wasn't scary, that's another thing to say. I didn't find it particularly scary, and I didn't find it surprising, really. You know, things play out roughly how you would expect, which I understand is deliberate. They're purposely nodding to the original film, and I just wish they'd taken a few more bolder directions, some bigger decisions, because I think ultimately, if you're gonna reboot Scream and you're gonna set up a whole new, like, maybe trilogy of films with these directors, then I think you've got to try and do something a bit different while still tipping your hat. In the end, I just thought they obviously went to lengths to show how meta they were being, but I think it got to the point where they were overdoing it, and it definitely suffers from the similar thing to the recent Halloween movies, where I think they went overkill with the fan service, and obviously on a future video I can talk more about that, but I think sometimes you just want a good sort of nuts and bolts horror movie, and for them just to focus on, because obviously the original Scream movies, the original two, certainly were very entertaining films, but they were also concerned with being horror, and they trod that line really effectively, and I don't think this did. I thought the tone was quite uncertain at times, because it seemed like they had ideas in there, and some of the ideas have been flagged up, like to do with toxic fan culture and different things, and maybe in some ways looking to make it quite adult, but then I don't think they quite got the right balance between that and the humour they were going for, and at least for me, not enough of the humour hit home well enough. I think the pacing was odd, like I said. My other main complaint, and I think this may be the worst thing about the film, is most of the new characters I thought were really bland, and it's a problem. I think the film suffers from having too many characters, because they've obviously got the appearance of the original three. You've got Judy returning, but then you've got a whole host of new characters, and it just felt like overkill, and it felt at one point like you almost had two movies going on. So you had like the Gale Sidney Dewey type film, and then you had the stuff going on with the others. But I think the characters being a bit bland and forgettable did drag it down a lot, because obviously they're new characters, and it sort of jumps about them, which I think is part of the problem. You don't really get to really care about them when they're going through all this stuff. I would say Tara was definitely the standout of the new characters, and I thought she did a good job, that actress. I thought there was a lot of vulnerability, but she could also bring it when it comes to having quite a tough, sassy sort of attitude. I think she was definitely the standout, and to me it felt like more like she would have been a good sort of final girl type. I didn't get into Sam at all. It was either the actress wasn't very good, or for some reason the character didn't play out very well, but I thought she was quite boring. And just overall, I thought the new characters were boring. I think I just didn't engage with them enough, whether it's because you're getting to know them, but they just didn't have great personalities that stood out. It's almost that balancing thing where I think on the one hand they tried to make them grounded and like believable, but on the other hand they went too far and didn't give them enough of like attitude, and it might be a mixed bag, the acting wise, because some of them were better actors than others. I for example, I didn't think the Liv actress was very good. I know she's like a rookie actress, because I think she comes from a pop background, and I think this was her first proper film, but I thought she was very one note, and they didn't really do a lot with her character. And that's the other thing, they jump about characters and don't really do a lot, and there's very little surprises. I think that's the disappointment, is I just hope they would have gone with a bit bolder and had more surprises, these reveals at one point. But without giving too much away, they sort of come quite early in the film, and they just felt like they could have been bigger developments if they came later. But yeah, it just seems like they have these reveals and they're just whittled away, and then they don't do much with them. So that was another point. And the ending was quite strong. It was quite entertaining. But overall, yeah, forgettable movie, really. And there's enjoyable moments in it. Obviously, the original three are effective. I think they make an impact. I'm not sure Judy's given enough to do in the movie, so maybe a bit of a letdown. I can obviously return and come back to this stuff, but yeah, sadly it didn't do much for me, and I know there's been a fair bit of positivity, but overall I think it's fourth when it comes to Scream movies. I would say overall I enjoyed Scream 4 more than this, and it's only really 3 then it's ahead of for me. Now that could change on further viewings, but overall, yeah, I think it went too far with the fan service, and the new characters by and large didn't do enough for me. So that's my thoughts on Scream 2022. I will return at some point with a spoiler review, with a proper spoiler review. Obviously Rachel hopefully will come on for that. But thanks for listening for now. Take care, like and subscribe, share me out on social media, and look out for more horror movie reviews soon. Thanks for listening, and goodbye.